I really love JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. The last decade was pretty amazing for the JoJo franchise. With the new anime by David Productions, it made this once niche series skyrocket into one of massive popularity. With now 5 parts getting adapted with the next one currently up in the air, the series is still riding high. I think it's fair to say the first anime in part 3 was where it blew up the most, and I bring this up because 2015 is a pretty interesting year for JoJo, with Stardust Crusaders Season 2 starting its run and it being licensed by Warner Brothers. Yeah, Warner Brothers. It's a really weird combination that had many results following that kept it in a weird place. A company that's never touched anime licensing a pretty weird show has bad idea written all over it. But here's the thing, just by WB licensing JoJo alone, it would create so many problems for it. So what do I mean by this? Well, when you think of American anime companies, the typical ones come to mind since they've been distributing them for over a decade. You don't think of Warner Brothers, the company that makes movies and cartoons. So people who were interested in JoJo were expecting it to be acquired by the usual players in the game, which makes sense. Anime fans know who to look for when it comes to their stuff being legal in their region, so they were just waiting for one of them to announce it, not knowing it was already taken. But JoJo is so weird and out there compared to WB's usual stuff that their fans might have been turned off by it. It's not the most beginner-friendly anime. It doesn't help that they never even promoted that they had the series. They never even announced that they licensed it. The only thing that came out was that they were releasing the first anime on DVD with a dub, and this was in June 2015, with it scheduled for the following month. There was no build up to it, just a random announcement by a random company outside of anime. They put themselves in a weird position where the audience they want doesn't know they have it, and the audience they have doesn't want it. But it doesn't end there. For an out of nowhere release, when July came, it was then announced that it was delayed for 2 months. But now, since it was pushed back much farther, the small bit of momentum they had with the surprise announcement was now gone. The delay is a big surprise since it was weeks away from the announcement. This confidence shows that it was basically finished, so why? What I assume happened is that the pre-orders for it were much lower than they were expecting, so pushing it back would give it more time to bring in sales. But since this is WB we're talking about, there was no promotion for its new date, meaning everyone forgot about it. The DVD itself was one of the worst releases in modern anime, having the laziest menus you'll ever see. No extras, and only having closed captions that are based on the dub, which means they're not synced with the Japanese audio, not allowing you to watch it subbed. They pretty much self-sabotaged the series in every way, even burning the few fans that actually bought the DVDs with how lazy they were done, pretty much killing any word-of-mouth promotion of the product. Imagine waiting months for something right around the corner and then getting something with little to no effort. WB really didn't care about JoJo, and they took advantage of the fans because they knew they were desperate to own anything of the anime. So you're probably wondering why WB acquired JoJo if they didn't care about it, and especially because 4 months prior to the DVD announcement, Viz Media became the master merchandise licensee for JoJo. This means they control all the merch that is made in reference to the series in North America, which is a really big deal, and like many you would think this includes the anime, but that's not the case. They had no involvement with the DVD. There isn't any concrete information on this, just theories online, but those I have some issues with. I also have my own, but again, none of this is confirmed, so it's just as likely as all the others. The main one that I found was that WB became interested because of the success of the films they helped distribute in the early 2000s. This one never made sense to me for a number of reasons. By the time WB acquired JoJo, it would have at least been 2014, so it doesn't make sense that they would use the success of anime from over a decade ago to warrant licensing an anime. The other thing is that if they were using the success of those, why would they get JoJo? Wouldn't they want something just as easy to market and that could have a wide family-friendly audience? It doesn't really make sense that they used the success of the Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh movie to get something much weirder and definitely more adult. My theory is a lot simpler. WB, like most other companies, have international branches, and in this case, WB Japan handled everything JoJo. The franchise over there is insanely popular and very successful. So what I think happened is that either main WB caught wind of its success, and with anime slowly becoming popular, they thought it would be an automatic hit. Or WB Japan told main WB WB how successful it is for them and that they should release it in America to take advantage of its growing international popularity. It's the only thing that works out since WB Japan has always been relevant to JoJo, and would be the only way the main branch would even know about it, allowing them to get it before anyone else. Viz getting master merch licensed is huge and showed a lot of trust to a licensing company, and this was because Viz had a history with JoJo. They actually released the Part 3 manga in 2005, and in 2014 acquired Part 1 with them getting Part 2 in 2015. They know how popular it is and actually understand it, so 6 months after the WB release failed, Viz would slowly start to take over the anime license over the course of 2016, starting with acquiring the streaming rights for all the parts at that time. The reason why they did streaming first is that the anime itself was in a weird situation. While all the other parts can be acquired on their own since they're separate to each other, Viz wanted the first anime before they did anything with them. But since WB licensed it and spent money on it, they didn't want to give it up. Viz is a really smart company who's been licensing anime for years and know it's all based around technicalities. So when they saw that WB only had the rights for the DVDs and they didn't want to give it up, they did the only logical thing: acquire the Blu-ray rights, giving them access to everything WB wanted to keep from them. This is the reason why you can't buy the first series in a matching DVD set like the others, and with this license it gave them access to their dub. For all the dumb decisions they made, their dub actually turned out well because they decided to outsource it to actual professionals who know anime. That's why you got so many well-known voice actors of the dubbing scene in it. Even if you don't like the accent, it's still well adapted and acted, and since I brought it up, the reason the accents are gone for later parts is because it switched directors in Part 3. WB was actually planning to dub Stardust Crusaders, creating a test dub that covered the first 3 episodes. They were using the sales of the DVD to warrant if they should do it, then obviously with how amazing they sold, they pulled the plug. Or to be more accurate, just left it unplugged. The Stardust Crusaders themselves were casted in it and were actually kept for the final version. It's really weird looking back on it because you can find some of the voice cast announced their involvement in 2014. Matthew Mercer was actually pretty vocal on wanting to return to Jotaro.
And so when we did the first 3 episodes and then the kind of held for a while, I was like, well, is that ever gonna come back? Are we gonna do more? I want to do more. So when they started doing all the other JoJo, the kind of prequels, the earlier Joestars, and putting them on Toonami, I was like, ooh. So keep my fingers crossed.
I know a lot of people went nuts when they see you at the end of season 2, where you're just where Jotaro's in that jail cell, kind of just waiting, and we were all like, oh, couldn't you give us just like one line, his catchphrase, or anything like that?
Yeah. So I'm hoping something comes together soon.
The test dub does exist online, but just sounds like normal dub, with the only difference being the narrator. It's really interesting to think that Matt Mercer as Jotaro is the last remnant of WB with JoJo. So what happened after Viz got all of JoJo? Well... Viz immediately putting JoJo on Toonami gave the series another life by kickstarting them producing the dubs for the later parts, as well as releasing all of them on amazing yet simple Blu-rays. It's interesting seeing how 2 companies handled the same product, one with very little interest that didn't really know what they were doing, and the other with a ton of love and passion, putting so many extras in each release, being physical and on the disc. They even created new box art that gives all the sets a nice unified look with the main JoJo and the villain of each part that actually homages the hardcover JoJonia manga sets. That's how much they care for it. Out of all the licensing stories I've covered on this channel, this is one of the few that has a happy ending, with the series getting saved from a company that almost killed it. It makes me happy to see JoJo thrive because I know it's being handled by people who love it just as much as the fans and does respect it. I'm currently watching Part 5 on Toonami and it's one of my highlights every Saturday, so I just wanted to thank Viz Media for all that they do with JoJo, getting me into the series, and that I eagerly await anything they do with the franchise for years to come. If you guys hit the end of the video, I always appreciate that, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye guys, thanks for watching.